Good evening, UK Crime Book Club. I can't take you seriously, Graham, but I'm not going to mention it yet because then you have to wear it for a bit longer.
It's been said before. No, I just thought I'd see. Mark's made a special effort, and I thought, well, I haven't, but I don't know. I reckon it'll catch on. What do you think?
Well, let's introduce you both first, and then Mark, you can explain why your hair is this gorgeous shade of bright pink. I love it. Absolutely love it. So, Graham, you're first there, so it is. So, introduce yourself, show off your book.
Who, me or
you go first?
Okay.
As the sexy debut, you can go first.
Sexy debut. My name's Graham Bartlett. I am a crime writer. I'm an author, and my debut novel, Bad for Good, which looks something like that, something like
nice pink. Nice pink.
Very nice.
So Mark's had his hair dyed in homage to my book. Is out today, and I'm absolutely delighted and exhausted. And I don't usually wear green wigs at all, but I was just saying before we started that it was strange when I WhatsApped my wife and asked whether we had any crazy coloured wigs, and she could exactly tell us where they were. I didn't think we had any. So, but yeah, and I'm really grateful to be here, and so chuffed to be here with Mark as well. Thank you.
You were very, very excited when I said it was with Mark.
Wow. I was that.
Mark, say hello to everyone. Show off your latest book and tell everyone who doesn't know who you are and why you think.
Hello, I'm Mark Edwards. I've written 18 books, including 6 co-written with Louise Voss. This is my 12th solo book, No Place to Run. As you can see, my hair almost matches my name on the cover. So what happened was that last week, I think I must have been bored. I was struggling with my work in progress. And I was like, how can I liven up my life? So I asked my Twitter followers if I should dye my hair pink to match my book cover. And of course, I mean, I knew it was obvious. As people kept saying to me, this is the country that voted for Boaty McBoatface. So they weren't going to say be sensible and don't do it. So I had to bleach it blonde first. So I looked a bit like Eminem for about 10 minutes, which I actually quite liked. I might go back to that. And then it went pink. And so I'm wearing a baseball cap when I go out of the house. This is me in disguise going round Wolverhampton where I live.
But can you not still see the pink at the back under it?
You can see it at the side.
Just a bit.
Yeah. But my kids won't let me do the school run with this hair. They're humiliated by me. But yeah, I might go to Harrogate like this. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah. I think you should.
It should become a trend. You're going to have to pick a colour for every book and
I know.
Celebratory hair.
I know. The thing is, though, you keep kind of raising the stakes, don't you? And I'll end up like having tattoos and piercings and I mean, while I've still got a little tiny bit of hair left, I might as well do it, I guess.
We've got a lot of hellos already.
I'm going to take my wig off now.
Yeah, before you literally sweat through it.
Here. Oh, look, I'm all spiky. Sorry.
You did well. You've managed about 10 minutes in that wig. I'm very impressed.
I know, look. Oh, dear. Sorry.
I signed you in at the beginning, Graham, and I was just like, oh, for crying out loud.
That's the I get most times I go anywhere, actually.
Yeah. We've got lots of hello, so hello to everybody who's watching.
Hello, Lindsay,
hair,
Donna, Tony.
We've got,
Joe Singleton said, loving the wigs, plural.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what.
I was going to skate past that. I wasn't going to mention that.
I think that was a typo. It must have been, mustn't it?
Now, I need to clear something up. So today is Graham's publication day, but I put in my post that it was also yours, Mark, and yours was 2 days ago.
It came out on Tuesday.
So what did you do on Tuesday to celebrate? I'm coming to you with this afterwards, Graham, so get your thinking cap on. Your thinking wig on.
Well, I mean, I spent a lot of the day online. I did my own Facebook party in the evening, which is always great fun. That went on for a couple of hours, where I gave out lots of prizes and answered questions and so on. I've been doing that since the Magpies came out in 2013. And I went out for lunch with my wife. We went to there's a like National Trust property just up the road from my house. We went there for lunch and yeah. Otherwise, it was a pretty normal day. My agent sent me some wine to celebrate, so I cracked open a nice bottle of Sancerre in the evening and drank that. And yeah, and I tried not to look at Amazon because I've decided to wean myself off trying to like look at my reviews and my ranking and all that stuff because it's so addictive. I haven't looked at it for 2 days, which I'm very proud of.
Are you twitching a bit now?
No, I'm actually fine. I'm fine. Yeah. I think I've got quite good willpower. I have these days, and I never used to have, but yeah.
Graham, what did you do today?
So, it started a while ago, but last night we had a launch party in Goldsborough Books in Brighton. I've got the absolute privilege of having David Headley as my agent, who also owns Goldsborough Books. And unless the bill's in the post, I think he paid for all the wine as well, because I don't remember buying any, which was really nice. So we had some lovely people there in the bookshop in Brighton. There's a new bookshop there. And a bit like Mark, really. I mean, today has been, as a launch day, it's been kind of tied to the desk, really. A lot of social media. I've been doing some interviews here and there. I was supposed to have an event on Tuesday night in Brighton with Mark Billingham and Tim Weaver, but that's postponed to next week because of the rail strike. And tomorrow I was supposed to be with Leslie Thompson, and that's been postponed as well till early July. But yeah, it's just been manic, and I haven't celebrated really today at all. But I've just been. Do you know what? I'm so glad you said that you're weaning yourself off Amazon, Mark, because I looked at it this morning and I just thought, no, if I carry on like this, it's bad enough trying to keep up. Not bad enough because it's lovely what people say. There's enough to do keeping up with social media, but I don't even understand the algorithm on Amazon and how you become a bestseller and this, that, and the other. So there's no point looking at it.
Well, I know there's no point. Things that you can't control, all you can control is the book. That's obviously the most important thing, like having a good book. And there's other things that you can control as well, like your own social media and how you communicate with your readers and stuff like that. But you can't control how many people buy it, where it goes up to in Amazon. You can't control the reviews, apart from writing the best book that you can. So just try and concentrate on the things that you can actually do something about.
Such good advice. Such good advice.
And the thing that makes it even harder for me is that with my publisher, I can see live sales figures. So if I want to, I can sit there all day and hit refresh and see sales coming in. So I can see how many it's sold in the last 30 minutes, for example. And I used to do that. I used to be like a kind of lab rat, like, like when they get these rats and they push levers, and sometimes a little treat comes down and sometimes it doesn't. And that's what makes it so addictive. And I used to be literally like with my children in the park when they were toddlers, I'd be pushing them on the swing with one hand and looking at my sales with the other hand. I was so addicted. Oh, no. And I've had to kind of like, it's like coming off crack. not that I know. It's how I imagine. It's like
telling the wrong person, Mark.
Like giving up smoking, or I gave up vaping recently as well after 10 years of vaping, and it's a similar thing, getting off that kind of that endorphin hit that you get from doing it. Yeah. So I feel very pure at the moment. I've given up vaping and I've given up checking my sales figures.
We've got a comment from Joe Singleton who says, next book, Pink Moustaches.
I'll tell you what, my next book's out next year. I should have started 2 years ago with growing moustaches forever.
I live in Wolverhampton. If I went around Wolverhampton with a pink moustache, I'd get my head kicked in.
Probably, yeah.
Come to Brighton,
Right in
Mark.
Brighton.
Mark, come to Brighton. You'll be
Yeah,
fine.
you'd be fine in Brighton.
Mills, hi Mills. She says, I still wish you'd dyed your facial hair as well.
I know. People are obsessed with my facial hair.
What do you think? Do you think you'd ever do that?
No.
Are you a kind of Christmas glitter in the beard kind of guy?
No, but maybe I'll do. I could do something for Christmas. We do usually dress up for Christmas, elf costumes and so. I mean, I'll do anything to put a funny picture on social media, but I don't know whether I would go that far as dyeing my beard. Yeah.
I did love the picture on social media, and actually, I was going to ask you both about that. The publicity side when it comes to photographs of yourself in different places. The one of you when you dyed your hair, Mark, was just brilliant. It really made me laugh. Just this big beaming face taking a picture in front of the mirror, showing off your hair. Love that. And you're not a stranger to publicity shots either, Graham. So recently saw you sat on a big stack of books.
Say again, sorry. Oh, stacks of books. Yeah. That was. Oh, and I hate heights, and that was quite a long way up. Rebecca, who's the manager at Goldsborough, took that photo, and she did a really good job because she managed to cut the floor out, so it actually looks higher than it is. But I still thought I was going to fall off.
How high was it? Was it like?
Oh, it was 1,500 books,
Wow.
and it was, I don't know how many books it was, but it was. I mean, I had to climb on a chair to get onto it, so
Okay.
yeah. But it did look higher than it was. It looked like I was sort of at the top of the ceiling because they in the warehouse they got a skylight, a borrowed light window, and it's kind of the usual thing that you'd see high up, but it's lower down, so it looks like I'm kind of because that's behind me. But that was that. Other people like that picture.
It's definitely eye-catching, yeah, the same as Mark's was.
Yeah.
When you actually did dye your hair. I'm impressed that you went through with it. I like that.
Well, I mean, usually, so I had a meeting with my publisher a few weeks ago, about a month ago, and they said you need to do more on Instagram. And I was like, well, I don't do anything. I sit at home all day and write. I can't just take pictures of my cat because although she is a very beautiful cat, I think she's in this room somewhere. I'll get her in a minute. She, I need, unless I go somewhere, if I go to a festival or go on holiday or go on a research trip or something, then what am I supposed to take photos of? So I'm just trying to think of trying to find new things to create Instagram content. And I've been doing like daily posts, whereas before I was doing like once a week or something. So I don't think it actually helps to sell books, not very much anyway, but it's quite good fun once you get into it. And it is nice. I think this is the best thing about being an author in 2022 as to opposed to what it must have been like 20 or 30 years ago, is that you can have that constant interaction with your readers. I can't imagine what it must have been like to write a book and then for it to come out, and apart from kind of going on like a bookshop tour or something, and I mean you wouldn't really have any communication with your readers. I guess they would write you letters in the post. I mean, it's hard to imagine what it must have been like.
That's true. Yeah.
So when it comes to, sorry, go on.
No,
I was just going to say, I watched Dorothy Coomson. I just happened to be on Instagram. My son had messaged me just at the moment where Dorothy went live on Instagram this morning, and she was doing a bit of a reading from her book and then answering a few questions. And she is actually going to be doing it again at lunchtime. So anyone who's a fan, I think it's about 1:00 tomorrow. I will check the time. But Dorothy's going to be reading a bit more from her book that's coming out soon. So that's nice. So would you consider doing that kind of thing, or do you already do that kind of thing?
Graham, you go first.
I would definitely consider it. I haven't done it, but it's it's a great thing to do. And Dorothy is fabulous at coming up with like quirky ways of kind of raising awareness of her books. She did a murder mystery thing that a few of us were involved in for last year's book, and she's got some great ideas. And She lives down the road from me, so I ought to kind of tap her up for them. But I would definitely do that. My worry is that I'd end up reading a spoiler chapter or something like that, and then that would just crash the sales. But I'd probably get guided on which ones not to read.
I suppose if you just read kind of the first 3 chapters over the course of a week, you could get away with that, because there's not much that we can talk about lots from your books, and we will tonight. It's just so tricky to have in-depth conversations about things that happen because you don't want to give things away. And I really hate spoilers. So Mark, with social media, so you're saying that you're doing more with Instagram, daily posts. Yeah. What else do you get up to?
Well, I have a really good Facebook community on my Facebook page, and it's something that I've built up over the years. So over the last 9 or 10 years, and so like I was saying earlier, I do these parties. I always do one on launch night, and then I'll do them. So I'll do like a Christmas party as well. I did a live reading on Facebook a few weeks ago as well, where I just did the prologue and a bit of the first chapter. And yeah, I find doing live videos and giving away prizes and just communicating with people, and it's like having a group of cheerleaders. I really love it. I've got people on there that I see who've come to literally every live event that I've done on Facebook for 9 or 10 years, and it's great to see the same people coming back, and with new people joining them as well. And yeah, it really feels like a nice little community with lots of people saying nice things about me, so which is great.
I get the opposite. So I've got a comment here, and I just had a look, and it was Jennifer Price said that I'm letting the side down because I didn't come out with any fun hair, but I didn't think of it in time. I do have a wig. I don't know where it is, but it's too warm to wear one.
Is that your real hair?
Shall I? Yeah, no, it is.
I just wanted to say something about Brighton as well, because you were saying about Dorothy Coomson living in Brighton, Graham. There's a really great crime writing community in Brighton, isn't there? Because you've got William Shaw, and Ellie Griffith.
This is William Shaw's books that live above my head.
I've read all of those. I love his books.
Love his books.
Ellie Griffiths is just outside Brighton. Peter James, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm from Hastings, so originally I'm from Hastings, so just along the coast. So my next book that I'm writing now is set in Brighton, just outside Brighton, in Saltdean / Peacehaven. So I'd love to live in Brighton one day. I would like to come back down to the south coast, and it's just such a nice place.
No, it is, and it's got such a great vibe, and I'm sort of blessed to have. I mean, Steve Watson's in Brighton, S.J. Watson's. In Brighton,
of course.
Jack Jordan, they're so friendly, and when you're a debut, and you're new on the scene, you kind of think, I thought, will I be welcomed in, and goodness me, they've been fabulous right the way from when I started writing the book. To be honest, they've been so supportive, and it's great, and it is a lovely city. I mean, obviously in Bad for Good, I paint it as being absolute carnage, but it's a lovely city, and and it's got some very, very different areas. You say Saltdean and Peacehaven are very different from some of the estates, and then there's some absolutely outrageous wealth in the city as well. So there's plenty to play with writing there.
I've just written a scene in Moulsecoombe.
I wrote a whole book about Moulsecoombe, a non-fiction book, but
really?
Right. I was the one of the dedicated officers for Moulsecoombe for about a year, responding to all the calls in Moulsecoombe. If you want to kind of talk
I used to go through it on the train. I know lots of students live there, don't they?
Because it's right between the two universities.
So
before I got to any of the questions at the side, I'm going to ask one more that I've been wondering this since I put the two of you together. So Graham, police procedurals, Mark, psychological thrillers mainly.
Yeah.
Graham, would you consider not writing a police procedural, and Mark, would you consider writing one?
So I probably would in the future. At the moment, I'm kind of absolutely sucking up the advice, write what you know. So I want to I want to find my writing style, my writing voice, and hopefully I've done that with Bad for Good, but I want to get more comfortable with that. But absolutely, I mean, I think it would be a good thing for me to move away from. I mean, I've only just started, and this is the beginning of a series. But in a few years' time, it would be a good thing for me to kind of explore other genres.
Yeah, I think you can mix them as well, can't you? Like somebody like Claire McIntosh does a good job of mixing the police procedural with psychological thriller, because she's also a former cop as well. And is it the first in a series?
Yeah. So it's I don't know how many in the series. I mean, I've got a 2-book contract at the moment, so the second one is in. And I'm just waiting for the copy edits. I'm writing the 3rd one at the moment. So I can, and I've got a 4th kind of in my mind, but I don't know. I don't know how long I can keep going. The kind of the sort of themes of them are there, that they are policing and their crime, but they kind of show policing and crime with a kind of within a social or political context. So this one's all about the cuts. The next one's all about modern slavery and right-wing extremism. There's probably only so many big themes that I could come up with, without sort of making them sort of cross over too much. So, but we'll see. I mean, maybe my imagination will spark, and I'll think.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I mean, Peter James, who you've worked with, how many has he done now? How many Roy Grace books has he done? 20 something?
Yeah, so nearly 20, I think.
Yeah, and he's having to come up with a new angle, a new theme every time, and keep it fresh. And that's part of the challenge of writing a series, I think. I mean, I write nearly all of my books have been standalones, but I have actually written a few police procedurals. So I wrote two books in what was going to be a longer series, but ended up kind of just stopping after 2, which was the D.I. Lennon series that I wrote with Louise Voss, From the Cradle and The Blissfully Dead. And then I also wrote one called The Lucky Ones, which was like a mix of police procedural and psychological thriller. I find what happens though is that once you've kind of established yourself, readers will want more of the same from what you do. So if I write something that isn't a domestic thriller or a psychological thriller, I'll get some readers saying, "Oh, we want you to keep basically writing the same but different." And that's part of the challenge of kind of making a career out of it and having lots and lots of different books. So No Place to Run is more of a Harlan Coben, Linwood Barclay style kind of action thriller more than a psychological thriller, because I can't just keep writing the same book over and over again. It gets quite boring for me if I do that. So yeah, I do enjoy. I like reading police procedurals, and I do like writing about the police as well, even though my knowledge is mainly gleaned from other crime novels that I've read and watching Line of Duty.
Oh, he said it. He said it.
That's a Graham.
I know there's loads of inaccuracies.
Although having said that, I've got quotes from my book in the book from I think it's JP Delaney said, about Line of Duty, and then I've had reviews saying he loved Line of Duty like this, and I'm known for slagging off Line of Duty.
I know. Well, I mean,
I enjoyed Line of Duty.
I think that the recent couple of series have been a bit dodgy, but it used to be fantastic. But there's definitely scenes now. There's like a scene where Steve just goes and kind of checks out, gets a gun, And it's like
Nowhere near
that would never happen.
nowhere near enough.
And but you can, yeah.
But they're good stories. I mean, they are good stories. But yeah, and if if I can't suspend reality on stuff like that. Sorry, suspend disbelief on stuff like that because of the other job that I do advising. But if you're happy to lose yourself in the story, which I do in drama and movies which aren't related to the police, then it's great and it attracts great viewing figures and people want more and more series. So somebody's someone's just put in the chat there, but Line of Duty is fun. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just I can't switch off my professional side of my brain from it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is interesting, isn't it? So how important is reality? How realism? Because sometimes I think I'll be writing something and I'll have a really great idea, and then I will research it and find out that could never actually happen. And then I have this kind of dilemma. Well, it's such a good kind of idea for the story, and maybe only 1 in 1,000 people reading it will know that wouldn't actually happen in real life. So maybe I should just go with it and get that one complaint letter.
For me, it's not about reality, because realistic policing is dull and it's a police, it's a textbook, but it's about authentic and plausible.
Yeah, authenticity. Yeah,
and I could probably count on the fingers of one hand the number of either storylines or character traits where I've said to people, no, that simply could not happen, because the way I approach it when I'm advising authors is go, okay, what do you want to happen? Okay, how do you think you're going to make that happen? And I go, oh, okay, well, that's not really how it would usually happen, but sometimes you can find other ways from A to C without going through B. I mean, so Samantha's got the Birdwatcher behind her there. That was a classic with William, and we both talk about it a lot. In that,
I don't want to try and get it down. I might land on my head. But I'm going to get it.
William's in that William wanted to and does have the investigator as somebody who's known to the person that died, and that's something that you kind of generally wouldn't, almost always would never happen. But
you found a way to make it work in the situation, though.
Made it work. We kind of gave this investigator a particular skill, a particular knowledge around the homeless community, and one word of dialogue from a senior officer, and he was in the inquiry, and the story carried on. So there's always ways around things, and so it's not kind of it's not a you can or you can't. It's usually we can make that work.
And I also think that having that knowledge of somebody who's actually been in the police can actually help you come up with better ideas. So, for example, there was a bit in the book. I won't say any details because it's going to be my next book. So it's the one I'm writing at the moment. But there was a bit where I was stuck and I knew it was unrealistic what I wanted to do. So I was talking to Neil Lancaster about it.
Yeah.
You know,
I think Neil's actually watching.
Yeah.
Okay, and he was like, "Well, this is what would happen," and came up with a really great solution to the problem that I had because of his knowledge from being in the police. And that was fantastic. So I would never have thought of that because it's not something that I've experienced in my job or in real life. So yeah, I think that sometimes having the knowledge can kind of put kind of blockages in the way, but then it can help you find new, more creative and better solutions.
Yeah. I mean, and in writing Bad for Good, I kind of went the other way initially, and I actually put too much procedure in and too many. I put the right number of characters in who would investigate a murder, and my editor said, well, you've got to cut those by about half at least because you're just cluttering. And so you can know too much, but you have to also know you can know it, but you then have to know how to write it. But yeah, people like me are fabulous, and yeah, he's got a paperback out today.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Yeah, but so yeah, and it's no criticism of anyone. I wouldn't know how to write a thriller based in a hospital around brain surgery. Although Jack Jordan's done one around heart surgery, and he was, he's brilliant, and he's researched it really well. But so it's about, as you say, speaking to Neil and people like me, and that, and just kind of going, I want this to happen. How can it?
Yeah, I think as well. Sorry, I'm taking over, aren't
I?
No,
I'm quite happy. I am sat here with my drink, just enjoying myself.
I mean,
this
I was
is the highlight of my day.
Carry on talking about research. So for this book that I've no place to run, my new one, the research that I did was to go, and I caught the train from Seattle to.
You actually did the train journey in the book.
Yeah, so the book starts on a train. The train from Los Angeles to Seattle, and somebody sees a woman running through a forest clearing, and that's how the book starts, a woman being chased by a man. And to research it, I actually wanted to go out there and see the place where it happens, because I think that if you can do that, you can put the details in that you wouldn't be able to get just from like looking it up on Google Earth or something. So yeah, I went to Seattle, spent a few days in Seattle with my friend Ed James, another writer. And and then we caught the train down and hired a car and drove around Oregon and Northern California. And it was great. It was so much fun, and it was so useful for writing that book as well. And that's why it's more exciting to write a book over there than in Wolverhampton.
Yeah. I can't believe you're coming to Saltdean for the next one.
Well, I went on holiday to Saltdean 2020, and I thought this is actually a really good place, because I wanted to come back to the UK because I've written 3 in a row in America, and I thought it's time for me to come back home. And it needed to be by the coast for plot reasons, and I just thought, yeah, this is a good setting. So so I have done the location research already for that one,
and it is a fabulous location as well, because it's all kind of built into a hill, this crescent in a hill. You've got this old Lido at the foot, and these underpasses to the beach, and it's I can't wait to read it. I bet you've got created some real mischief in there.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I have fictionalized Saltdean a bit because the geography didn't quite work for what I needed, but there's also all the history of smuggling as well in that area. Comes into the book, because that's something, growing up in Hastings, that's something that I was really interested in as well, because you've got the smugglers' caves in Hastings. And I just love the idea of all these tunnels kind of in the cliffs, and I'm straying into spoiler.
Don't do that.
People will forget by the time it comes out. They'll have forgotten, so it's fine.
Probably, yeah. I do hate spoilers, but I have a terrible memory, so
yeah.
Lindsay Lynn wants to know: are you both writing full time now? Now I know that Graham, you've got a lot going on. And I believe, Mark, you do write full time. I thought you did. So who wants to go first with that?
Graham, do you want to go first?
I don't write full time at the moment, but that's because I'm kind of advising more or less full time. So I advise crime writers, TV writers. I run online courses. I kind of deliver to academic courses as well on writing authentic crime fiction. So I squeeze the writing within that, and it's a step on for me, because when I left the police, I was doing a lot of other things. I was doing a lot of work around safeguarding, which is all very important, etc. But I wanted to move in, as I've got the bug, I wanted to move into writing. So my ideal would be to be 50% advising, 50% writing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been full time since 2014.
So the year after your first book came out?
The year after, well, so the first solo book, so The Magpies was the first solo book in 2013. And before that, there was a couple of years where I had books out with Louise.
With Louise, of course, yeah.
And I mean, that was after years and years of trying to get a publishing deal. I mean, it actually took me about 15 years to get my first deal. And then then Louise and I self-published in 2011, and that went really well and led to a contract with HarperCollins. So in 2012, I left my day job, but I carried on doing freelancing work and then fitting the writing kind of in between the freelancing. And I mean, I was actually really broke. Really, the first year that I was an author, I was completely skint. And it was only when the Magpies came out in 2013 and sold lots of copies that I was able to go full time. And yeah, I won't say I haven't looked back, because I have quite a lot, but I've been making a living doing it now for, I don't even know what year we're in, 2022, 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years.
Wow.
So yeah, and I have a spreadsheet where I have the money I've got coming in and how much I'm spending, and I can work out exactly how many months I can go before I have to go and get a day job if I don't earn another penny.
Wow.
That is
So
dedication.
constant pressure then.
It is, yeah, it's constant pressure, yeah, and so yeah, that's why I never really rest. I finish a book and then almost immediately start having to write the next one, and I'm writing one I've just signed a contract for 3 more books at 9-month intervals. So I'm actually increasing my output from one a year to try and do one every 9 months. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
And the stress of that made you dye your hair pink?
Yeah, it turned grey.
To be fair, mine is dyed. I am sat here with a dye job.
Okay.
So this is kind of my natural colour, but my natural colour's got more patches of grey in it. But the second it goes fully grey, I won't touch it. I'll never have to dye my hair again. It'll be a fabulous day. Just leave it alone.
I think the day my daughter my first child was born, I got my first grey hair, and then it all kind of started going wrong from there. You've got the silver fox look. You've got the silver fox.
I prefer to call it sage blonde, because the wisdom sage blonde. So my hair's gone sage blonde.
Donna, when you were talking about Line of Duty before, said she watches 24 Hours in Police Custody for real life, Line of Duty to get lost in something distracting. And that pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? We read for entertainment and to be distracted. So otherwise, we'd all be into true crime and keeping an eye on that. But
exactly.
we're more.
It's not Jed, it's me. That's all it's.
I don't really like true crime. Are you a fan of true crime series? And I don't mind the occasional
I do watch
podcast,
documentaries.
but yeah, I liked Making a Murderer when that was on a few years ago. I loved that. But
I believe they're actually still in prison as well, which it's a very when you're just on the outside looking in and being told what to think. It's quite. I thought somebody's smoke alarm was going to go off. Then was that a notification?
Yeah, that's me not turning my texts off.
That's all right. Somebody messaging you to find out why your hair's green.
Sorry?
Somebody messaging you to find out why your hair's green.
No, it's people asking how they can return the books, I think. You can't.
There's been some really good true crime documentaries lately. It's say really good. I mean, we don't want to take pleasure in somebody else's pain, obviously, but very interesting how things are handled. And I can't think of the name of a single one of the ones that I've watched.
Well, I mean,
Our Father was one.
Yeah, a lot of them. I mean, quite often now the trend is that you'll have a drama based on the documentary, a docudrama, and then you have a documentary at the end of it. And they did it with the Canoe Man. Do you remember the Canoe Man from?
Oh yeah.
I find them fascinating because it's a job I used to do, and sometimes honestly, fact is stranger than fiction. But I think with true crime drama, I think they have to be really careful to make them sensitive. You know, that at the end of the day, you've got families that are, you know, that are still grieving, or you know, people that might be victims themselves. So I think there's a challenge there to make them sensitive. But yeah, I mean, I quite like them as something to watch out of interest. But if I want to watch something for entertainment, then I'll kind of lose myself.
Yeah. What was that? What was the one with Stephen Merchant where he played the murderer of those three?
That was the Colin Pork murders, wasn't it? Stephen Pork murders.
Yeah, that was brilliant, and it was quite shocking. Like the police's kind of handling of those cases. So I really liked that one. But usually I'll watch things about catfishing and people being swindled on, like the Tinder swindler. That was good.
Tinder swindler.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure he's the kind of guy I'd have fallen for. You kind of look at him and you look at his personality and what he puts across and how quickly he conned the women. And I do really feel sorry for them. They got a lot of abuse and they're still getting a lot of abuse, and he's still off somewhere living the high life on everybody else's money. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see how he's got away with it.
Yeah, well,
people are really good. But you both know this because your characters have that kind of grip on people. You know, he's living it, but you're creating it. And I think the way you're doing it is obviously the better way.
Yeah, I think that creating or writing about manipulative people or psychopaths or sociopaths or cult leaders, for example, people who lots of other people are willing to follow, who have that charisma, I think they're really interesting characters to write about. So, I mean, the kind of baddie in No Place to Run is the leader of an environmental activist group who's kind of taken it to the extreme. And I've written about cults as well in previous books. And I just find people like that, and the people who follow them, the people who are kind of willing to give up their lives to completely buy into this story that somebody's told them, an endlessly fascinating subject. So how do you write your baddies? Are they based on people that you've actually arrested in the past?
No. Of course they're not.
Sure.
I wasn't going to ask that. I'm quite impressed, Mark.
I've got a clause at the beginning of my book to basically say this is a work of fiction. You know, suck it up, basically. No, I mean, I'm always interested in the abuse of power, and you know, having people in there that I mean, a lot of psychopaths. I mean, you know, there's a huge number of psychopaths in politics at the top of industry, and thankfully, the vast majority of psychopaths don't go killing people. But so I'm really interested in kind of exploring that with my characters, and you know, the abuse of power, the way in which people rise to the top through their psychopathic ways and mimicking what they know to be or what they think to be acceptable behaviors, but actually they're not feeling that themselves. So mimicking empathy and those sorts of things, and I really love exploring those, and because I think frankly it's real. I mean, I'm not writing reality, but I think that is something in our society, and you only have to look at politicians, people in charge of big business, you know, and a lot of them are, you know, they are psychopaths, and you know, psychopath doesn't mean a violent killer, as we know. It means people that lack empathy and stuff. So I think that, you know, I like exploring that and kind of how these people get into positions of power and then bringing them down during the book.
Do you think it would be possible for a psychopath to get to the higher ranks of the police?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. And they have. Well, I don't know. They're not diagnosed, but I'm not going to do it. But I could name 4 or 5 people here that are have been very, very senior, you know, high-ranking police officers who I'm sure would come out as psychopaths if they were assessed. Absolute, without a shadow of a doubt.
Interesting.
Is there not that kind of assessment on joining the police service? Is there not any kind of procedure for looking at that?
Not really. No, I mean they look at a lot of things. They look at your, they look at your situational judgment. So they'll give you scenarios that Bear in mind, everybody joins, or certainly, the vast majority of people join as police constables. So you're being appointed as as a police constable. So that they go, you get called to a neighbour dispute, and this happens, and what do you do? And it's kind of so they're looking at your situational judgment. They're training you around. How you respond to incidents, use of force, use of tactical, what they call tactical communication. So, basically talking your way out of trouble, talking other people out of trouble. But people then go through the system. They're usually they're very intelligent, quite intellectual people, but they go through the system and they build sort of. I can't think of the word, but they build sort of groups of people, cliques. They build cliques, and they start to manipulate up and down, and eventually you see them rise through the top, through to the top. And I've sat there before, seeing people getting promoted, and just thinking, you've been had. You've been had. Not because you put them in charge of a firearms incident or investigating murder or something. They won't do a good job, but they will. But you see people just going up and up and up, and some of them you just think you've completely played the system here, and it's quite. And the higher up you go, the more dangerous it is.
I'm wondering if either of you put any little Easter eggs in for people who live in the area that you write about. So if a book is set there, is there anything that you might have added? So me and one of our admins, who's an author, Will Templeton, we were having a chat one day, and I told him where one of my character names came from, and it's a road sign on the A1. And it's Clifford Bramham Thorner. And we used to live in Yorkshire, and every time we drove up there, me and my husband would make a little joke about this. And he'd say it in a posh voice, because it sounded like a kind of a posh military kind of, somebody high up. So anything like that only local people would really get. Sorry, putting you right on the spot.
I think I've only set one book around here, around Wolves, and I did put some kind of language, some slang that only people who live around here would use. Like they would describe somebody as a scutter, which is a kind of lowly kind of person.
See, now for me, a scutter's one of the things from Red Dwarf.
Oh, is it?
One of them, I'm sure that's what, scutters.
Scutter.
Little robots that they have.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think it's unrelated, but yeah, I don't know. I think I mean, in terms of Easter eggs, a different kind of Easter eggs, I do put Easter eggs in my books in terms of there'll be little references to other characters, or like one of my characters, one of my books is an author, and so other people will be reading his books in other novels, or it gets adapted made into a Netflix adaptation, and one of the characters, one of the other books stars in the Netflix adaptation. So there's lots of little there's a universe, a Mark Gilbert's universe, which is always really good fun to do.
Well,
I mean, I've got lots in mind that police officers that I know or that have worked with me and that have worked within Sussex will recognise and just chuckle at. I mean, there's and I've changed the names of everyone, but they're not those people, but I've just put a little character trait into them that will make people go, oh, I know that is, but it's not, and they're all minor characters. They're not the main characters at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a couple of things, and some little, some little police traits. One of them, how do you get 5 sort of middle ranking officers who are really, really, really busy, absolutely run off their feet on sort of hour 12 of a murder, or maybe hour 18 of a murder, how do you get them into a briefing? Because you need to get them in. You need to find out what they've got, and they're all over the place. Bacon sandwiches. Bacon sandwiches. Honestly, if you get bacon sandwiches, if you can't find anyone in a police station, you either get bacon sandwich or you get a pizza delivery. And I promise you, it's as effective as getting people out of the police station as a fire alarm is. Get them in, get bacon sandwiches or a pizza delivery, and whoever you're looking for will appear. So there's a bacon sandwich scene in there. Only a very, very small, very. We don't
So
go.
it's not donuts.
Brown versus red or anything. Sorry, Mark.
It's not donuts. It's not the cliche of donuts.
No. Well, there are donuts. You see, donuts is a thing. Donuts.
Maybe that's an American thing. American cops.
Oh, my son's a police officer, and he managed. They're booking somebody into custody the other day, and he was putting they have a box of property. He was putting it up on the shelf above the custody officer and dropped it on his colleague's head. 3 days worth of donuts. He got fined for that. 3 days worth of donuts. Luckily, there's hardly any police officers about, so it's only like 2 or 3 donuts. Oh, someone's
just as you said, there's no police officers around.
Someone's off to the bakery there, look. But so 3 days worth of donuts for dropping a box of property on someone's head.
Yeah, there's a lot of ambulances and police cars go up and down this road. Yeah,
I live on one of those roads.
Yeah, constant sirens wailing.
We've got so many questions. I'm just kind of looking through because I had loads of my own that I'm not going to get to. Joe wants to know why you both chose to write crime fiction and what is it you think creates such an interest in the genre?
Well, I mean, I kind of stumbled into it really. I wanted to be a horror writer originally, and because horror was the genre that I really always enjoyed the most when I was growing up, like Stephen King and James Herbert. And I wrote numerous books that were never published, which were kind of like a kind of mishmash of different genres. And it was only when I started to concentrate on one genre, which was psychological thrillers, which I kind of wrote accidentally. I only sort of realized it was a psychological thriller when I'd finished it. That's the route that I ended up going down. Because apart from horror, it's the genre that I like reading the most. And I was reading people like Michael Connolly back in the 90s, and James Elroy and people like that. And and if I tried to write, I mean, this is, people always say it's a bit of a cliche, but if I tried to write anything that was just like a normal story, someone would always get murdered by page 20. And so it was just kind of like, well, the muse is trying to tell you to write this kind of book.
I think it's quite obvious for me.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've spent all my adult life around crime and dealing with crime and dealing with criminals and police officers at different levels of competence and motivation. So there was always kind of a rich vein for me there to tap into. But I was an advisor really before I was a crime fiction writer. So I was around a lot of crime fiction authors. I was writing non-fiction with Peter, but I was helping other authors, and I just kind of got into it. I just fascinated by the way where you can take it, and understanding that the way that I saw things as a police officer for 30 years, that was just my truth about what was going on, and there were other people's truths as well. So I just saw so much opportunity there.
Sorry, there's a lot of sirens going past. Can you hear them?
Because you mentioned your crack habit earlier. Somebody
lining up outside.
I know.
I've been on the phone. I've been on the phone, Mark. They're...
West Midlands Police. I think the other reason that I write these kind of books is that I'm just fascinated by the awful things that people do to each other and how terrible human beings can be. And it started with the magpies because I had these neighbours who lived below me who were just awful, terrible people who it seemed like it was their mission in life to make my and my then girlfriend's life a misery. And I thought these are like real life monsters. They're just normal people, but they're monsters from a fairy tale or something. It's like living in a bridge above some trolls, and yeah, that's where it all started. And so I'm kind of inspired by how terrible people can be and how they can destroy the lives of nice, regular, innocent people. And that's kind of what happens in most of my books. Nice people come up against these monsters and have to try and deal with it and get through that situation. So yeah,
Brilliant.
Yeah, we're almost at the end. So I wanted to ask you if there's any other events that you're going to be at. So either in person or online, any other places that people can come and find you. That sounded more sinister than I intended it.
Well, I mean, I don't have any more online events planned. I'm going to be at the Harrogate Festival. I'm not appearing at it, but I'll be there and I'll be milling around. So if anyone sees me there, come up and say hello. And then I'll be at the Butte Festival in Scotland in August, then Bloody Scotland in mid-September, and then Capital Crime at the very end of September, early October.
29th of September to the 1st of October.
Yeah, which I'm really excited about because the first Capital Crime was fantastic, and then it was kind of spoiled by the pandemic, like so many things were. And yeah, but apart from that, I don't have anything planned.
So people can get the requests in now to get you on their channels and their things and invite you to places.
Yeah, I'm always happy to do things like this and do podcasts and Q&As and all those kind of things. So yeah, I'm relatively
Graham, where can we see you? Oh, sorry, Mark.
No, I wasn't. I was just going to say I'm relatively free, apart from the fact I've got a book to finish, which is taking up most of my time. Yeah. Yes.
So I'm at Waterstones in Brighton on Monday with Mark Billingham and Tim Weaver, which I'm very excited about.
Excellent writers.
Yeah, they're great. They're brilliant. And then I'm at Stenning, which is just outside kind of Worthing, Brighton area, with Leslie Thompson, who's just brought out The Companion. That's on the 7th of July. I'm at Harrogate. I'm on a panel at Harrogate. I'm very lucky to be on
coming to watch your panel at Harrogate with Kaz.
Not allowed to. I've said to Donna, who's I know here, she's not allowed to be in the front row because you'll be like,
I'll sit at the back with a green wig on.
Yeah.
I'll ask Julie to send it to me.
yeah, I'm sure she will. And then I'm at Capital Crime as well. I'm doing something. I think I know what I'm doing, but I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to know what I'm doing yet. It's one of those things. So
yeah, it's all a bit cagey, isn't it?
Don't say anything until the program.
And he, he's my agent as well, and he went.
I know.
Terrible man. He's not. He's a wonderful.
So just before we go, because it's almost 8 o'clock, give us a final recap of your releases from this week, and congratulations again to both of you on fantastic books.
Go on then, I'll let the sexy debut go first.
So give a recap on what? Sorry, I misheard you.
Your new book. Sell your new book.
Bad for Good introduces a new series, Chief Superintendent Joe How, and the question it asks is what happens when police cuts are so severe that vigilantism takes over, and when that vigilantism becomes state-sponsored vigilantism, seeded with corruption and blackmail, and while she's trying to investigate the murder of her predecessor's son. And it's first in the series, and we put her through absolute hell.
Yeah, you do. Mark?
So, No Place to Run is about a British man who lives in Seattle searching for his missing teenage sister who vanished 2 years before. And the book starts with a woman on a train going through Northern California, looks out and sees this young woman being chased across a forest clearing, and is sure that she recognizes her as the girl who vanished in Seattle. And the main character, the brother Aidan, then goes down to California and searches for his sister and gets involved in some very, very dark, I was going to swear, stuff. Some very dark stuff. But I guarantee you won't guess what happens.
And on that note, thank you everyone for answering, asking questions and saying hello and comments. Sorry we didn't get to them all. There are so many. Thank you to both of you. I really do feel like I'm letting the side down now, but I've got nothing to drape over my head. Thank you to both of you for such a brilliant hour, and good luck with the books.
Thank you. Thank you for having us on.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you, Mark. Thank you.
You too.